to do something as heinous as what Mr. Clark did here. And the reason he did this, the reason he killed Olivia, is because her older sister had the audacity to want to break up and end a romantic relationship with him. This is all about intimate partner violence, and it's been taken to the highest degree possible. Mr. Clark tried to kill 4 people because one of their family members did not want to be romantically involved with him anymore. Amira Rogers is the family member, the older sister who was dating Mr. Clark. On December 3rd, she tried to end that relationship. He physically assaulted her and started sending her threatening text messages. They were reported to the Darby Township Police Department and to the Postal Service where they both worked. I want to commend the postal inspectors who are here today and the entire Postal Service. Not only as soon as they got that information did they take steps to try to protect her at work, they changed her shift so that they would not be working at the same time. But the postal inspectors have been relentlessly working with us to make sure we can bring this Mr. Clark to justice as soon as possible, as part of an incredible law enforcement team, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. The Darby Township Police Department have done extraordinary work in this case. Not only did they try to rush into the house and save the family members, and some family members, 3 of them were saved in that burning house, but they have, from the beginning, treated this as a criminal matter. They took Mr. Clark into custody as soon as we had evidence that he may have been responsible for this. And while he was in their custody in the early morning hours of December 4th, I want to give you just a sense of how evil this man is. He not only had been sending threatening text messages to the victims, to Amira Rogers, to let him know what he was going to do, that he was going to do something horrendous that evening as payback for her breaking up with him. Even after he set this fire and intentionally killed her sister, he was in police custody, was sending more terroristic, threatening messages to her, just to further terrorize her after having killed her sister and attempting to wipe out her entire family. Police officers were alerted to this. They had him in custody for questioning. They went in to find out how he was doing this. He assaulted the police officers who tried to get this device from him. What they found out is he had secreted an Apple Watch inside his rectum in the cell just so he could send more threatening messages to further bring this home to this woman, what he did to her. This is, again, one of the most evil, depraved acts we've seen here in this part of Delaware County, and frankly, in my law enforcement career, and I think the chief will say the same. I just want to thank the Darby Township Police Department, these incredible officers, for everything they did, and the fire service here in Darby Township to try to save people, and they did save 3 family members that evening. What they did to try to save Olivia, unfortunately, we couldn't. They have worked hand in glove with our detectives at CID, with the ATF, with state police experts, who all quickly were able to determine that this was an intentional arson. We also got video evidence to be able to bring these charges. And my Deputy District Attorney, Laurie Moore, who has quarterbacked this effort, has brought these charges today, both for the assaults on the officers on December 4th and for the heinous, heinous murder of this poor woman, Olivia Drescher, and the attempted murder of the other 3 members of her family. That's why we are here today. Again, this is what we unfortunately see too much of in this world, intimate partner violence, but it's been taken to such an incredible degree. He couldn't kill the woman who was trying to break up with him, so he took it out on her paraplegic sister by intentionally torching the house when he knew the family was there in the early morning hours of Sunday morning, December 4th. We are happy to have brought the charges today. We want to make sure the entire community is reassured this was not some random act. This was an intentional violent act, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to prevail at the prosecution, and this gentleman will never see the light of day again. So at this point, I would like to bring up Chief Sosa, who has been working literally around the clock since this matter happened with his team of investigators and the people you see behind me who have brought Mr. Clark to justice. Chief.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mike Sousa, Chief of Police, Darby Township. First and foremost, I want to extend my sincere thoughts and prayers to Olivia and the Drescher family under this horrific crime that was committed on them. As Jack stated, this is the most evil act committed by an absolute monster that I've ever had to investigate. It started on Sunday at about 12 o'clock, 12:15 in the morning, where we received a call for a house fire. Arriving officers found the front porch area of the house fully involved with intense fire that quickly spread to the second floor. The family that managed to escape the blaze immediately notified the police officers arriving that there was a person inside that was unable and disabled to get out of the house. At which point, our officers from Darby Township and surrounding areas immediately attempted to enter the building to try to remove or rescue Olivia from the flames. Unfortunately, they were pushed back by the intense smoke and fire. Upon the arrival of the fire departments, they made numerous heroic attempts to remove her and rescue her from the property, but again, were pushed out by the flames, smoke, and the potential of a building collapse. Aaron Carter, we have knowledge that Aaron Carter knew prior to setting this fire who was in this house. We know that he knew that the sister was in this house and was going to be unable to get out of the flames, which is just evil. This investigation kicked off as soon as we arrived and were notified of there being a fatality in the house. We treated it as a homicide investigation from the very beginning. We wouldn't be standing here today without the amazing help and assistance from this team standing behind me and the team who might not be here right now. We had this subject in custody, Aaron Carter, at about 6:30 in the morning, so roughly about 6.5 hours after he had initiated the fire, which it just can only be because of the amazing investigative work that was conducted from the beginning and where we stand today. Again, it's just amazing. And I want to publicly thank everybody who was involved in this. And I'm internally grateful. Darby Township is internally grateful to the law enforcement professionals and the fire professionals who were here and haven't left since this was kicked off on Sunday morning. And I'd also like to publicly thank our residents of Darby Township who have been forthcoming with information and video and evidence without us even having to ask. It was an amazing group effort between the residents of Darby Township, the fire services, and again, the investigation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions for the news media? Diane?
Jeff, when it comes to the threats and the domestic related situation with the older sister and Carter,
Right.
Were there any threats made and reported to police, any law enforcement agency, whether it's the mother who works for Philadelphia Police or whether it's Darby Township, or are there any reports made to police prior to the fire?
My understanding is December 3rd, that's Saturday, the first reports came into law enforcement. So she started, I think that morning, they had an altercation at his residence in Philadelphia. I think she was breaking up with him. I think from that point forward, he started sending her text messages that she felt were threatening. She reported it to her bosses at the Postal Service, which you absolutely immediately should do whenever this happens with somebody who you're having a relationship, who you work in the same place with. They also reported it to Darby Township Police late in the afternoon. So that first report came in just that Saturday. It was that evening into the early morning hours of December 4th, Sunday morning, when he came to the house and torched it. So it was a very short period of time before they got these basic information. And again, the Postal Service, on their side, they did exactly what they needed to do. As soon as she reported it to her superiors at the Postal Service, they made sure that they weren't working the same shift. And we thank them for doing the right thing. Yes, Jim?
When you say you have information that he knew the sister was in there. Can you expand on that? What that
he knew the family. They've been involved in a relationship, he with the older sister, for a while. We believe that he intentionally did this and was texting her that there's going to be a big show, and you'll see the quote of the text in the complaint. He wanted her to know he was going to do something big. Maybe he was looking for her to interact. We have no idea. But he knew the family was there. He knew when she would not be there, and he went up and he purposefully torched this house. He threw accelerant and fire onto the porch, and it was there as it began to burn.
So in those messages, does he indicate that he knows the sister with CT is in there?
We know from the information, that the fact that they were in a romantic relationship, that he knows about her sister, he knows about her condition, he knows that was their family and that they were home that evening.
How long were they together?
I'm not sure about that, Alex.
Like months, years, anything that he called her? April?
So maybe months.
And what was it like a Molotov cocktail, or what did he do to actually set the blaze?
Can't get into that right now. We're still doing some parts of the follow-up investigation, but we have gotten to the point where we can absolutely say that the fire was set by someone. It's not an accidental fire, and we have evidence that he was there at the moment the fire started.
Neighbors who hadn't necessarily been in the home said they knew or were fairly certain that Olivia's bedroom was in the front. If you're looking at the house to the left,
Correct.
where the front porch was. And do you believe that the suspect knew that's where her bedroom was and was setting the fire on the front porch, knowing that would potentially trap her?
There's a difference between what I believe and what I know, and what I can prove. At this point, that's a likely scenario. That's a likely theory. It's not part of the proof in this case because it didn't really matter. He was torching an entire house with 4 people in it, one of whom is still in the hospital, the nurse. And not only does she have physical injuries, but she has anguish from this patient that she's been working with for so long. She wasn't able to save her. And it's not her, obviously it's nothing. She was trying to save the twin sister, I believe, at the time. The nurse. She was making sure everybody got out at the best they could. But to your point, because of where the fire started and where the paraplegic sister, Olivia, the decedent, was located, they weren't able to rescue her. And she had to, Aliana, she died of smoke inhalation and thermal burns. So she was in this house, unable to move, unable to communicate, as her body is being fried and as she's choking to death because of the smoke, all because Mr. Clark was angry about her older sister breaking up with him.
Do you think it's a domestic violence?
Not that I'm aware. I can't get into any criminal history at this time.
Ms. Rogers did the right thing. She went to police. She reported it. It was such a small window before he committed that act. So something has been done with police to make contact with him.
He lived in Philadelphia. There was no chance for an opportunity for us to have any interaction with him until he committed this egregious, horrendous, evil act.
For domestic violence victims, though, when they see that, she did the right thing and nothing will happen. I mean, what more can she do?
And it's unfortunate that is a truism that all too often it happens, right? But all we can do is hope that if we do make a report as quickly as possible, that there is, I think it's the extreme, this is the extreme case, right, of somebody who is so evil, so depraved in his heart that he's willing to kill other people just to terrorize her. Okay, that doesn't happen every single day. As Chief said, this is the most horrendous thing he's seen in his law enforcement career. I think most of these guys will tell you, and women will tell you the same thing. This is a very extreme case. So anyone who's involved in any situation where there's domestic violence at all, please report it. In the most cases, we are able to take some kind of an action, especially if you get, for example, a PFA, right? Take whatever protections there are there. In most cases, they are successful.
The nurse lived with them?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
We believe she lived there, but we certainly know she was overnight on this occasion, and probably others as well.
And then I know earlier there was complications with the judge that was supposed to take the case. Any word yet on like an on-call judge or when it can expect Clark to be in court?
He's being arraigned, I think, this morning.
He's currently being held at Delaware County Prison on gun-related charges. So I would assume sometime this afternoon.
Any other questions?
There were four people in there.
Yes. Yes. At the time that happened, there was Olivia, her mother, was present, twin sister, and the nursing. Correct.
Unrelated charges. Unrelated charges.
I'm sorry.
What was the unrelated charge?
Aggravated assault.
So when he was brought in for questioning on December 4th, right, that's when he had the watch but he assaulted the officers, he spit at them, and he physically went at them and physically assaulted them as they were trying to go into the cell to find out how he was communicating with Amir. So he's charged with that separately. So that's why we had him in custody. He's already been arraigned on that. He's granted bail on that. But we wanted to make sure, just in case there was any opportunity for him to make bail. And plus, as soon as this team behind me knew what was going on in this case, they wanted to bring this guy to justice as quickly as possible, and we have done so. And again, I can't thank these guys enough.